I was 5 months pregnant when I finally got what I wanted. The mansion was mine. The man was mine. And that woman, that pathetic wife who had spent 27 years by his side, had been thrown out like a stray dog. I had won. Or at least, that's what I thought as I caressed my belly that July afternoon, sitting on the porch that now belonged to me, looking out at the endless gardens of the Blackwood property in Vancouver. But there are things in life you only discover when it's too late, and the truth that was about to explode in my face would destroy not only my victory, but everything I believed to be real about myself. My name is Amanda Foster. I'm 32 years old, with a gym body 5 times a week, platinum blonde hair that costs $3,000 a month to maintain, and always perfect nails. I knew exactly what men wanted when they looked at me. And William Blackwood, with his 60 years, billions in certified timber and private ports, was no different. I met him at a charity event in Cole Harbor 3 years ago. I was there as a companion to a lesser businessman, one of those who rents beautiful women to make contacts. William looked at me differently. It wasn't just desire. It was instant obsession. He approached me at the bar, smelling of expensive whiskey and imported cologne, and said with that confident smile of someone who's never heard no in their life, "You're too beautiful to be alone here. What's your name?" "Amanda," I replied, with the voice I had trained to be sweet but not childish, interesting but not desperate. "Amanda," he repeated, as if tasting my name in his mouth. "I'm William Blackwood, and you're having dinner with me tomorrow." It wasn't an invitation, it was an order. And I smiled because he was exactly the type of man I was looking for. His wife, Catherine, was on the other side of the ballroom. 55 years old, elegant in that way only old money can be, navy blue dress, hair pulled back in an impeccable bun. She was chatting with other ladies of Vancouver's elite, laughing at something I would never know about. They lived in a different world. I was just the pretty girl serving champagne. But when William asked for my number that night, I knew I had found my way out. The first months were classic. Meetings in discreet hotels, expensive gifts, promises whispered between 1,000 thread count sheets. He said Catherine was cold, that the marriage had been dead for years, that they only stayed together for their adult children. "She doesn't understand me, Amanda," he would say while stroking my hair in the apartment in Yaletown he kept for our meetings. "We've had nothing but obligations for years. You make me feel alive again." I pretended to believe everything, pretended I cared about his problems, about his back pains, about the fights in the company's boardroom. But what I really wanted was simple: financial security, a life where I would never again have to smile at disgusting men in exchange for dinner. Robert, the oldest son, was 35 and worked at the company. Claire was 32, my exact age, and lived in New York. And there was the youngest, James, 28, whom no one had seen in years because he had moved to the interior after some scandal that William never properly explained. "My children are a disappointment, Amanda," he would say, drinking whiskey while complaining about his family. "Robert doesn't have the courage to really take over the company. Claire only knows how to spend my money in New York. And James? I'd rather not even talk about James." And when I discovered I was pregnant 7 months ago, I knew I had the winning ticket in my hands. William was shocked when I told him. We were in the Yaletown apartment and he was drinking whiskey, face red, hand shaking. I thought he would send me away. But then he did something that surprised me. He smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of relief. "Are you sure?" he asked. And I showed him the 3 pharmacy tests I had taken. "Absolutely," I said, and placed his hand on my still flat belly. "It's your child, William." He was silent for a long moment, and then said, "This baby changes everything, Amanda. Changes everything."
2 weeks later, he asked Catherine for a divorce. I wasn't there when it happened, but William told me every detail over the phone that night, his voice full of pride and excitement. "I gathered everyone in the dining room," he said. "Catherine, the 3 children, and I said, I have a mistress. She's pregnant, and I'm going to marry her." Catherine has 30 days to leave this house." "And what did she say?" I asked, heart racing. Robert stayed silent, that coward. Claire started crying and ran out. And Catherine, he paused. Catherine stood up from her chair, looked at me for a long moment, and said, "You're going to regret this more than anything you've ever done in your life." I laughed when he told me. Of course she'd say that. It's what scorned women always say. But there was something in the way William spoke those words, something in his voice that made my skin crawl for a second. I ignored it. I was pregnant. I was winning. And in less than a month, I would be the owner of that mansion. Catherine left the house without scandal, without lawyers fighting, without endless lawsuits. She simply packed her bags, took what was hers, and disappeared. She moved to a penthouse downtown, they said, but no one saw her. It was as if she had evaporated from Vancouver society overnight. She accepted the deal I offered, William told me when I asked. She was surprisingly reasonable. I think she finally understood it's over. I moved into the mansion 3 weeks later. It was like entering a fairy tale. 17 bedrooms, Olympic pool, sauna, private cinema, a library with books no one read, and staff who called me ma'am. I chose the master bedroom, the one that had been Catherine's for almost 3 decades, and had everything changed. "I want everything new," I told the decorator William hired. "I don't want any trace of her here." William was more in love than ever, or at least that's what it seemed. He showered me with gifts, jewelry, designer clothes. "You're going to be the queen of Vancouver society," he would say, holding my hand as we dined in the enormous dining room, "and our child will inherit all of this, everything." "And your other children?" I would ask, just to provoke. "They've had their chances," he would respond with contempt in his voice. "Our child will be different. He'll have my strength, my ambition. He'll be the true heir." I agreed with everything, smiling inside, because it didn't matter if the baby was a boy or girl. What mattered is that through this child, I had become indispensable. But there was something strange happening, small things I tried to ignore. Once I found an old photo at the bottom of a drawer I was sure was empty. It was a photo of young Catherine, maybe 25, holding a baby. On the back of the photo, someone had written in pencil a date, 1992. I did the math. 1992 was 33 years ago. But Robert, the oldest son, was born in 1990. That baby in the photo couldn't be any of the known children. I showed the photo to William that night. He was in the office, working on company papers. "William, I found this today," I said, showing the photo. "Who is this baby? It's not any of your children, is it?" He snatched the photo from my hand so fast he almost hurt me. His face turned red, veins in his neck bulging. "Never touch her things again," he shouted, tearing the photo into pieces. "Did you hear me? Never again." I took a step back, frightened. I had never seen him like this. "Sorry," I whispered. "I was just curious." He took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "It's the past, Amanda. Past that doesn't matter. Never touch Catherine's things again." But that reaction left me thinking. It was fear. He was afraid of something. Another time, Robert showed up at the mansion unannounced. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was in the living room choosing colors for the baby's room with catalogs spread on the couch. He never looked me in the eyes. Always polite, always cold. But that day, he stopped at the door, watched me for a long time with a strange expression on his face, almost pitying. "You have no idea what you're doing, do you? You're just a piece on the board, Amanda. Always have been." I dropped the catalogs and stood up. "What are you talking about, Robert? If you have something to say, say it." But he just shook his head with a sad smile. "You'll find out soon, and when you do, you'll understand why I feel sorry for you." And then he left. I told William that night, hoping he would be angry with his son, but when I related the conversation, William turned pale, completely pale, broke into cold sweat. What did he mean by that? Piece on the board? What board? Robert is stressed about work, William said quickly, too nervous. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Ignore it, Amanda. Please, ignore it. But I saw the panic in his eyes, and for the first time I began to wonder if there was something I wasn't seeing. Something big. Something terrible.
The gender reveal party was my idea. I wanted something grand, something that would mark my position in society. We rented the ballroom of Vancouver's best hotel, hired expensive decorators, invited over 200 people. The entire elite would be there. Business people, politicians, artists. It's going to be perfect, I told William as we chose the menu. Everyone will see that I'm the new Mrs. Blackwood. He smiled, but there was something forced in that smile. Perfect, he repeated. The day arrived. The ballroom was perfect. Pink and blue balloons everywhere, a dessert table that looked like a work of art, servers serving champagne. I was wearing a tight white dress that cost $40,000, custom made in Los Angeles. It was my official coronation. William was by my side, hand on my waist, broad smile, but restless eyes, as if waiting for something bad. People came to congratulate us, took photos, complimented my dress. "Amanda, you look radiant," the women said, with poorly disguised envy. "William, how lucky you are," the men said with looks that undressed me. I felt untouchable. The reveal moment would be grand. We had prepared a giant cake that, when cut, would release colored powder revealing the baby's gender. It was 8 o'clock at night when the moment finally arrived. The lights went out. Everyone fell silent. The spotlight pointed to William and me in the center of the ballroom. We were ready to cut the cake. And then the ballroom doors burst open with a crash, and she walked in. Catherine Blackwood was different. She was no longer the elegant, discreet lady I had seen at that party 3 years ago. She was wearing a red blood dress, daring neckline, hair loose falling in perfect waves on her shoulders, impeccable makeup that made her look 10 years younger. And she was carrying something in her hands, a large manila envelope. She walked down the corridor that opened between the guests like the Red Sea. No one dared to stop her. Her heels echoed on the marble, firm and determined. Each step was a declaration. William squeezed my hand so hard it hurt, and when I looked at him, I saw absolute terror on his face. "William," I whispered, "what's happening?" But he didn't answer. He was paralyzed. Catherine climbed onto the small stage with us, standing a few feet away. She looked me up and down, a slow smile forming on her face. It wasn't a smile of anger. It was a smile of someone about to win a game that had lasted years. "Congratulations on the baby, Amanda," she said, voice calm and controlled but echoing in the silent ballroom. "The party is beautiful, really beautiful. But before you reveal the baby's gender, I'd like to reveal something too. Something everyone here needs to know." Security guards began to approach, but William raised his trembling hand, signaling them to stop. "Catherine," he said, "don't do this." "Don't do what, William?" she asked, feigning innocence. "Tell the truth. But the truth needs to be told, doesn't it? Especially when it involves so many lies." She opened the envelope and took out several documents. Photos, official papers. She handed some to specific people in the front row. Journalists, I realized with horror. She had invited journalists to my party. "This baby that Amanda is expecting," Catherine began, looking at the crowd of paralyzed guests, "is very special, but not for the reason you think." She made a dramatic pause. The ballroom was so silent I could hear my own heart beating. "Because the father of this baby is not William Blackwood." The ballroom exploded in murmurs, gasps of shock, people turning to whisper. I started laughing. It was ridiculous, absurd. "That's a lie," I shouted. "Of course it's his. I haven't been with anyone else."
Catherine looked at me with that smile still on her face. No? Are you sure about that, Amanda? Absolutely. I practically spat the words. Then let me refresh your memory. And she waved to someone at the back of the ballroom. A giant screen descended behind us, and then videos started playing. Security videos. Videos of me and a man in the Yaletown apartment. That same apartment I thought was secret, that was just mine and William's. The images were grainy, black and white, but clear enough. The man wasn't William. He was younger, taller, and when the camera focused on his face, I felt my stomach drop. It was Robert.
The video showed us entering the apartment, showed kisses, clothes being removed, bodies intertwined. But I didn't understand. That never happened. Never. I was never with Robert, never touched him, never. This is fake, I screamed, desperate. This is false. You edited these videos. Deep fake, you mean? Catherine asked calmly. It's possible, of course. Technology today allows many things. But what if I tell you I have more than videos? She took another paper from the envelope, an official document with seals and signatures. Paternity test, she announced, done with blood collected from your prenatal at Vancouver General Hospital last month and with a DNA sample from Robert Blackwood. Result, 99.9% probability of paternity. The world stopped. Everything stopped. I looked at William, but he was staring at the floor, destroyed. I looked at the crowd and saw Robert leaning against a column in the back, head down, ashamed. "Robert!" I shouted. "Tell them this is a lie! Tell them!" But he didn't look at me, didn't say anything. But the truth, Catherine continued, and her voice became even colder, is even worse than you imagine. Amanda isn't here by chance. She didn't choose William for love or money. She was placed here by me. I stared at her, unable to process the words. What? Amanda Foster, she said my full name like it was a sentence. Born March 1st, 1993, daughter of William Blackwood and a woman named Sarah Foster. No. Sarah worked as a secretary at Blackwood Company in 1992. She had an affair with William, got pregnant, and when she told him, "You know what this wonderful man did?" offered her money to have an abortion. When Sarah refused, he fired her, paid a ridiculous hush money amount, and forced her to sign a document saying she would never reveal the father's identity. My head was spinning. My mother had worked for him. My mother had... No, this can't be true. Your mother died when you were 17, didn't she? Catherine asked, but it wasn't really a question. Cancer. Without money for proper treatment, while William built his timber empire, his daughter's mother was dying in a public hospital bed. Tears began to flow uncontrollably. I couldn't stop them. I discovered Amanda's existence 4 years ago, Catherine said, now looking at the entire crowd like a teacher giving a lesson. Investigating my dear husband's secrets, I found the old payments, the threats, the abandonment, and when Amanda's mother died, I sought her out, showed her the evidence, showed her who her father was. She turned to me again. Do you remember, Amanda, that elegant woman who showed up at your house 3.5 years ago, who said she had information about your father? And then I remembered. A woman with dark glasses and a scarf on her head. She had given me an envelope, had shown me documents, photos of my young mother with a man in a suit, payment receipts, and she had said, "He destroyed your mother's life, and you have the right to know who he is. William Blackwood, billionaire, father who abandoned you, and I can help you make him pay."
I had thought that woman was a journalist, an investigator, someone who wanted justice. But it was Catherine. It was always Catherine. I offered Amanda something she couldn't refuse, Catherine said to everyone. The chance to destroy the man who destroyed her life and her mother's. The plan was simple: seduce William, make him fall in love, get pregnant by him, destroy the marriage, and then at the perfect moment I would reveal everything and destroy his reputation forever. But there's a problem with that plan, I managed to say, my voice coming out hoarse and broken. I was never with Robert. Never. So how can this baby be his? Catherine smiled, that terrible, triumphant smile. You were, Amanda. You just don't remember. She showed more photos from a party I recognized. It was a year ago, a corporate event at a private club. William had taken me. I had drunk champagne, a lot of champagne, and then nothing. I didn't remember anything after 11 at night. I had woken up the next day in the Yaletown apartment with a horrible hangover, thinking I had drunk too much and blacked out. Rohypnol, Catherine said simply. The date rape drug. Placed in your drink by someone I paid very well. You were taken to a private room. Robert was there, and he did what I told him to do. I looked at Robert again, and this time he looked back. There were tears on his face, too. I'm sorry, he said, voice broken. I'm sorry, Amanda. She said it was the only way to free you from him, that you were being manipulated, that this plan would save you in the end. I believed her. I believed my mother. You raped me, I said, and the words came out like glass. You drugged me and raped me? I didn't want to, he said, crying now. But she said it was for your own good, for our good, that in the end you would understand. Understand what? I shouted. That you turned me into a victim? That you used me as a weapon? That you destroyed my entire life? You were already destroyed, Catherine said, and her voice was ice. You were already falling into his clutches. I just accelerated the process and added a twist that would make everything more poetic. Poetic? I repeated, almost laughing with hysteria. You call this poetic? You're pregnant with your half-brother, Amanda. The child you're carrying is the product of incest. It's the perfect symbol of this family's rot, of what William Blackwood is capable of creating. The ballroom was in complete chaos now. People screaming, photographers taking photos frantically, journalists recording everything. But I could only stand there, hand on my belly, feeling the baby move inside me, and knowing that nothing would ever be normal again. Why? I asked Catherine, and my voice was just a whisper. Why do this to me? What did I do to you? She approached, got very close, and said quietly, just for me to hear, You didn't do anything to me, Amanda. You were just the perfect tool, the abandoned daughter, full of rage, full of pain, easy to manipulate, easy to use. And when I discovered you existed, I knew the gods had given me the perfect gift to destroy William. Not just destroy the marriage, but destroy everything. The reputation, the family, the legacy, everything. You're a monster, I said. No, she replied. I'm a woman who spent 27 years being humiliated, betrayed, disrespected, and who finally decided it was time to play the same game, only better. She stepped away, grabbed the microphone that was on the stand next to the cake, and said to everyone, "Ladies and gentlemen, the party is over. But before you leave, I'd like you to know one more thing. The entire Blackwood Empire, all the companies, all the ports, all the properties, everything is in my name. It always has been. William was just the face, the administrator, but the money, the real power, was always mine. Inheritance from my family. And now, with this divorce, I'm taking everything. He gets nothing, and you are all witnesses." William fell to his knees, literally fell, and began to sob like a child. "Please," he begged, "Catherine, please, don't do this. I love you. I've always loved you." "Love?" she said, looking at him with disgust. "You don't know what love is, William. You only know how to possess, control, destroy. But it's over. You lost." And then she looked at me one last time. "You lost too, Amanda. But unlike him, I really feel sorry for you, because you were a victim before becoming an accomplice. Take care of that child. She's not to blame for any of this." Catherine left the ballroom with the same elegance she entered. The journalists ran after her. People began to leave, whispering, pointing. Robert disappeared through a side exit. And I stood there, alone in the middle of that ballroom decorated with pink and blue balloons, with a giant cake that was never cut, wearing a $40,000 white dress, 5 months pregnant with a child who was simultaneously my niece and my half-sister, daughter of the man who had raped me under his own mother's orders. I fell to my knees, and for the first time in years, I cried for real. Not strategic tears to manipulate men, but tears of pure pain, of loss, of understanding that my entire life had been a lie, that I never had control of anything, that I was, as Robert had said, just a piece on the board, and the game was over. The following months were a blur. The scandal was in every newspaper, on every TV, in every conversation. Photos from the party leaked, the videos leaked, everything leaked. William lost million-dollar contracts, companies broke partnerships. He filed suit against Catherine, but her lawyers were better, much better. And gradually, it became clear that Catherine was right. The money was always hers. The documents proved it. William had been just a well-paid employee of his own wife for decades, without knowing. Robert was removed from the company. He went into a deep depression, was admitted to a psychiatric clinic for a few weeks. When he came out, he came to visit me in the small apartment where I was living. Rent paid by an amount Catherine deposited in my account. Blood money. He knocked on the door one September afternoon, thin, unshaven, sunken eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said when I opened the door. "But I needed to see you. Needed to tell you that I'll pay child support. I'll help. I know it doesn't change anything, but it's the least I can do." "You raped me," I said, the words still difficult to get out. "Under your mother's orders, and you accepted." "I know," he said, tears streaming down. "And I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. My mother convinced me you were in danger, that my father would destroy you, that this was the only way to save you and expose who he really was. I believed it because I wanted to believe, because I hate my father as much as you should hate him. But I should have said no, should have found another way." "There is no other way," I said, too tired to feel anger. "Your mother orchestrated everything perfectly, and we were both her pieces." "Will you let me know the child?" he asked, hesitant. I thought for a long moment. "I don't know. I don't know what's right. I don't know anything anymore. He nodded, understanding. When you decide, let me know. I'll be here. Not out of obligation, but because this child deserves better than all of us. And then he left. The baby was born in December, a girl. 7 pounds, perfect dark hair, blue eyes that the doctor said would probably change color. She was perfect, and she was mine. I named her Helen, my mother's name, the mother I lost, the mother William helped kill with his abandonment.
I know everything that happened, he said. Saw it in the papers. Robert called me. And I just wanted to tell you one thing. You're not alone in this. We're all victims of William in some way. I distanced myself because I discovered things about him that made me sick. Things I'll never repeat. But you were used by my mother too. And that's worse. Why worse? I asked. Because you expected him to be the monster, but you didn't expect her to be. James looked at me with genuine kindness. I live in the interior, have a small farm, horse breeding, simple life. If you ever need to escape from all this madness, from judgment, from the media, my door is open for you and Helen. Why would you do that for me? I asked, suspicious. I had already learned that no one did anything for free. Because I know what it's like to be the forgotten piece in other people's game, he said, and because this child deserves to grow up away from all this. Think about my offer. He left a paper with phone and address and left. The months turned into a year. Helen grew, started crawling, babbling, smiling, and each smile of hers was a knife in my heart because I saw Robert in her, saw William, saw all the genetic mess that was her existence. William lost everything, literally everything. Catherine kept the company, the properties, the ports. He tried to fight in court, but her lawyers were better, and the documents proved he never owned anything. It was all hers, inheritance from her family, just administered by him. He had been a glorified employee thinking he was the owner. The humiliation was complete. He started drinking, a lot. And one night, 6 months after Helen's birth, he knocked on my door. He was drunk, dirty, smelling bad. Amanda, he said, stumbling, I need to tell you something. Go away, William, I said, trying to close the door. But he put his foot in, preventing it. Please, just listen to me, just this once. Against my better judgment, I let him in. He fell on the couch, head in his hands. I knew, he said. Knew what? That you were my daughter. He looked at me with red and swollen eyes. From the beginning, from that party where I met you. Catherine had sent me a letter months before, with photos of you. With the DNA test she had done without my knowledge, using my hair or blood, I don't know. She said, your daughter is alive. She's poor. She's struggling. And you never cared. Don't you think she deserves to know her father? I ignored the letter, tore it up, threw it away. And then you showed up at that party, and I recognized Sarah's eyes in you. And still, I seduced you. My stomach turned. You knew I was your daughter, and still, I'm a monster, Amanda. A monster who deserves everything Catherine did to me. I convinced myself you weren't really my daughter, that DNA was wrong, that it was her manipulation, but deep down I knew. And still, I wanted you, because I'm sick, because there's something broken in me. I felt bile rising in my throat. Get out of my house. Amanda, I'm sorry, please, for everything. For your mother, for you, for this whole mess. Get out, I screamed. Get out now before I call the police. He stood up, stumbling, and went to the door. Before leaving, he turned one last time. Catherine isn't done with you yet, you know. She's just waiting. She always waits. And when you least expect it, she'll make her next move. Because she didn't just want to destroy me. She wants to destroy everyone who had anything to do with me. And you, whether you want it or not, did. She already destroyed me, I said. There's nothing more she can do.
He laughed, a humorless sound. You still believe that? That there's a limit to what she can do? How naive. And he stumbled out into the night. The postnatal DNA test confirmed everything. Robert was the father. 99.9% certainty. William refused to see the child, said it wasn't his granddaughter, that it was an abomination, that I had destroyed his life. I destroyed your life? I screamed into the phone when he called me drunk one night. You abandoned my pregnant mother. You denied me my whole life. You're my father, and you were never there. I'm not your father, he said, voice thick with alcohol. Never was. You were a mistake. A mistake I paid to disappear. Then why did you fall in love with me? I asked, and the question came out before I could stop it. Why did you want me so much? Silence on the other end. And then, because you're exactly like your mother. Beautiful. Dangerous. And I can never resist what destroys me. And he hung up. Claire came back from New York once, just to see the scandal up close. She looked for me at the hospital, the day I was discharged with Helen. I just wanted to see with my own eyes, she said, looking at the baby in my arms. The child who ended everything. She didn't end anything, I replied. Your family was already rotten inside. She just exposed the rot. Claire laughed, a bitter sound. True, we were always rotten. We just pretended well. She looked at me with curiosity. Did you know? That you were his daughter? No, I said honestly. Your mother told me years ago, showed me proof, and I believed it because I wanted to believe, because I always wanted to know who my father was. And when I found out he was a billionaire who had abandoned my mother, I wanted revenge. Your mother just gave me the means. She's dangerous, Claire said quietly. My mother. More dangerous than anyone imagines. I grew up watching her plan. Scheme. Wait years for revenge against small offenses. But this, she shook her head. This was her masterpiece. Where is she now? I asked. Portugal. Living in Lisbon. Bought a mansion facing the ocean. Says she's never coming back to Canada. She handed me a card. If you need anything, call me. Not for the family, but because this baby doesn't deserve to pay for all our sins. And she left too. James, the youngest son no one saw, appeared a week later. He was 28, but looked older. Weathered face, long beard, simple clothes. He had distanced himself from the family years ago for reasons no one explained. He knocked on the apartment door, and when I opened it, he simply said, I'm James. Can I come in? I let him. He sat on the old couch that came with the furnished apartment, looked at Helen sleeping in the portable crib, and sighed. She's beautiful. He said, looks like you. Thank you. I replied, not knowing what else to say. And he stumbled out into the night. 3 weeks later, William was found dead in his apartment. Overdose of medication mixed with alcohol. Police said it was suicide. There were no signs of struggle. There was a letter. Robert showed me the letter. I didn't go to the funeral. No one expected me to. But Robert thought I should read it. The letter said, I destroyed everyone I loved. Sarah, Catherine, my children, Amanda. And in the end, the only thing left for me is to admit that Catherine was right. I'm the cancer in this family, and the only cure is to remove myself. To Amanda, you deserved a better father. To Helen, you deserve a better grandfather. To Catherine, you won. Completely. I hope it's worth carrying all that blood on your hands. I didn't cry. Felt nothing. He was a stranger who shared my DNA. Nothing more. But then, 2 weeks after the funeral, I received a package. No return address. Inside, a flash drive, in a handwritten letter on expensive paper. I recognized the handwriting from the old photos Catherine had shown me. It was hers. The letter said, "Dear Amanda, if you're reading this, it means William finally did the right thing and removed himself from the board. Good. He was always weak. But now comes the part I really wanted to tell you, the complete truth, because you deserve to know how far this story really goes. Watch the flash drive, alone, and then you'll understand that nothing you thought was real was. Not even your own conception. With love, Catherine." My hand trembled holding the paper. Part of me wanted to throw it in the trash, burn it, forget it, but I knew I couldn't. I had to know. I always had to know. I put Helen to sleep, closed the bedroom door, and put the flash drive in the old laptop I had bought at a thrift shop. The file was a video. Date 1992. Filmed in Super 8, then digitized. The quality was poor, but you could see everything clearly. It was a party. A large house, elegant people. And then the camera focused on a young woman. My mother, Sarah. She looked beautiful in a blue dress, laughing at something. And then a man approached her. It wasn't William. It was another man. Older, gray hair, elegant. The camera kept filming, and I saw my mother kissing that man. Saw them leaving the party together. And then the video cut to a document. A paternity test. Date 1993. Right after my birth. Comparing my DNA with the DNA of two people. One was Sarah. The other was not William Blackwood. It was Henry Thornton, Catherine's father, the patriarch of the Thornton family, owners of the entire empire that Catherine had inherited. The man had died in 1995 when I was 2 years old, and the test results said 99.9% probability of paternity.
The video continued playing. It showed more documents, showed Catherine discovering, years after her father's death, about his affair with Sarah, about my existence, showed her investigating, tracking, discovering that William had falsely assumed paternity, paying Sarah to keep quiet about the real father. Why? Because Henry was his father-in-law, because revealing the affair would destroy his marriage to Catherine, so he paid for silence and took the blame, knowing he would never acknowledge it anyway. And then came the final part of the video, Catherine speaking directly to the camera, recorded recently, maybe weeks ago. "Hello, Amanda. If you're watching this, my whole plan worked. William is dead, you're destroyed, and now you know the truth. You're not his daughter. You never were. You're my half-sister, my father's daughter with your mother, and that means Robert isn't your half-brother. He's your nephew. And Helen isn't the product of incest. She's just a normal child, born from abnormal circumstances. Surprise!" She smiled at the camera, that terrible smile. "I discovered this 5 years ago, and when I did, I realized the perfect opportunity. You were my younger sister, my father's bastard daughter, and I could use you to destroy the man I hated. So I planted the seeds, made you believe you were William's daughter, made you feel rage, made you seek revenge. And then when you were exactly where I wanted you, I revealed the truths at the party. But that truth was a lie within another lie, because the real truth, the one you're discovering now, is even more devastating, isn't it?" She tilted her head, as if she could see me through the screen. "You spent a whole year believing your daughter was the product of incest, carrying that guilt, that horror, waking up in the middle of the night thinking about the genetic monstrosity. But it was a lie. I manipulated the DNA tests, paid the labs, forged the documents. Robert never even touched you that night. The videos were deep fakes, as you suspected. Everything was theater, elaborate theater, to make you suffer,
to make William suffer, to make everyone suffer. She paused. But you know what's funny? Helen's real father is William. After all, you got pregnant by him naturally. That first time in the apartment, the baby was always his. I just made everyone believe it wasn't. And William died thinking he had lost everything, including the chance to have another child, when in fact, Helen was his daughter all along. But now he's dead, and you'll never be able to tell him. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Why did I do this, you must be wondering? Because my father had an affair with your mother, because you're living proof of his betrayal, because when I discovered you existed, the entire perfect image I had of my father crumbled. He wasn't the honorable man I thought. He was just like William, a cheater, a liar, and I wanted you to suffer for existing, wanted you to carry all the pain I felt when I found out. She took a deep breath. But mainly, I did it because I could, because I have money, power, connections, and I wanted to see how far I could manipulate human lives. I discovered I can manipulate a lot. You, William, Robert, all were pawns, and it was delicious. She stood up, preparing to end the recording. Now you know everything, the complete truth, and you have a choice to make, my dear half-sister. You can try to expose me, you can go to the police, you can go to the media, but you have no proof. All the real documents I burned, all the real DNA tests I destroyed. All that remains are the lies I planted. And if you try to challenge me, I have infinite resources to destroy you completely. Take Helen from you, make you seem crazy, unstable, dangerous. Or you can accept the check for $2 million that my lawyers will deposit in your account tomorrow. You can take your daughter, disappear, live a comfortable life away from all this, and never speak to me or about me again. The choice is yours, but choose wisely, because this is the last kindness I'll offer. Kisses, sis.
I sat in the dark for hours. Helen woke up at 3 a.m. crying. I picked her up, nursed her, and looked at her little face. William's daughter, not the product of incest, just a child. An innocent child born in the middle of a war between sick people. The next day, $2 million appeared in my account, and a lawyer called saying Catherine was offering a deal. Complete silence in exchange for financial security. No lawsuits, no exposure, just peace. I thought about James, about his offer, about the farm in the interior, about the simple life away from all this, and I made my decision. A week later, Helen and I were on a farm in rural Montana. Open sky, horses, silence. James received me without questions, without judgment, just help. "You made the right choice," he said as he helped me unload the few things I had brought. "Did I?" I asked, still unsure. "You did, because Helen deserves to grow up away from the Blackwoods, away from the Thorntons, away from all that rot. Here, she can just be a child." And he was right. That was 3 years ago. Helen is now 4 years old. She runs around the farm, plays with the dogs, rides the small horses with James supervising. She knows nothing about Catherine, about William, about the war that created her. And with luck, she never will. I work on the farm, take care of the animals, plant vegetables, live simply. Catherine's money is in an account I don't touch, saved for Helen's education when she grows up. I don't want anything that comes from that woman, but I'll use it to give my daughter a better life. James became family. Not romantic, not a father substitute for Helen, but family nonetheless. He understands because he also fled, because he also saw the monsters that family is capable of creating. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if Catherine thinks about me, if she regrets, if she feels anything. But deep down, I know the answer. She feels nothing. People like her don't feel.
They just play, move pieces, create chaos, and then watch from afar, satisfied. Yesterday, Helen asked me something while we were picking tomatoes in the garden. "Mom, do I have a father?" My heart stopped. "Why do you ask that, sweetheart?" "Because the other kids in town have fathers, and I only have you and Uncle James." I knelt down, got to her level, looked into the blue eyes that had turned brown over time, and said, "You had a father, but he left before you were born, and he would have loved you very much if he had stayed. It was a lie. William was incapable of loving anyone, but Helen didn't need to know that." "It's okay," she said, and hugged me, "because I have you, and you're the best mom in the whole world." And in that moment, with the sun setting over the mountains, with my daughter in my arms, with the simple life I built far from everything that destroyed me, I realized something. Catherine didn't win completely. She destroyed me, used me, broke me. But I put myself back together, not the way I was before, but in a new way. Stronger, more aware, and with the peace I hadn't lost, but only temporarily forgotten.
I was the pregnant mistress who thought she had won. I became the victim who discovered she was a piece. But in the end, I became the survivor who chose peace instead of revenge. And maybe, just maybe, that's the greatest victory of all. Not against Catherine, but against the cycle, against the possibility of becoming like her, against the poison that ran through that family. Helen won't grow up with hatred, won't grow up wanting revenge. She'll grow up with love, with simplicity, with the chance to just be herself. And if that's all I can give her after everything that happened, then I accept it. Catherine Blackwood is in Lisbon, living her luxury life, thinking she won. And maybe she did win, but she'll die alone, surrounded by money that can't buy the only thing that matters: peace of conscience, real connections, true love. She sold all of that for revenge. And revenge, in the end, only leaves emptiness. I chose differently. I chose Helen. I chose the farm. I chose to live. And maybe that's my story. Not about how I was humiliated, not about how I was destroyed, but about how I survived. About how I found a path when all paths seemed blocked. About how I refused to let the monsters who created me define who I am. Tomorrow, I'll wake up early. I'll make coffee. I'll wake Helen. We'll feed the horses together. We'll plant seeds in the garden. And we'll live. Simply live. Without drama, without revenge, without games. Because that's the truth Catherine will never understand. The real victory isn't destroying your enemies. It's refusing to become one.